Happy to be here. And I thought what I would do, this is meant to be a very interactive, and Oksana will ask me all kinds of questions. But just to ground us, I have a couple of slides just to talk a little bit about the history and scope of the firm. And by the time I arrived in '89, we had a $300 million fund, and I joined in part to raise a $1 billion fund. And we did that in 1990. We were one of only 5 firms with $1 billion of assets under management. Hard to believe. And we quickly pivoted to working with large corporations looking to divest big divisions. And that was natural for me because my background was with McKinsey. I knew a lot of these large companies. And so as you can see here, we worked on divestitures from some of the Fortune 100 names. And these were traditional carve-outs that now represent a small percentage of total M&A activity. But for us, that was almost everything that we did. And I'd say over the last decade, we've expanded that slightly. Still a lot of corporate carve-outs, but the world has changed and we have a lot of opportunities to be co-investors with existing owners, take over management responsibility with a control equity stake, and build a business, but with the seller, family, or corporate as partner. The firm, 42 years in business, relatively small. You know, when you look at some firms like KKR, we have 80 investment professionals. I bet Henry has 80 people just in his compliance function. Many of our competitors have become multi-asset managers very successfully. We've been true to the course of focusing on a singular strategy with a singular fund. And the distinguishing feature is our operating executives, of which we have 35 or 36, all in the manner of what Marty Dubilier first started. And every one of our investments is led by an operating executive. And that's really what the firm is focused on. And over the last 10 years, which I have to say have been very good years for everybody, but nonetheless, with the 10-year performance of 3x on investments at 37% gross IRR, and outperforming a pretty healthy S&P by 1,000 basis points, we've obviously done pretty well with that model, and that obviously leads us to think we should continue to do it. Every part of our due diligence has to look at community, environment, social impact, employee. On average, we have 12 ESG changes in every deal that we initiate. Some of it are obvious, such as diversity in the senior management team. Some of it on sustainability. None of this is really that hard. And I say that to people when they say, gee, you've done well. And I said, no, we've just done it a long time, and you keep your head down and keep on going. And even in diversity and inclusion, which I give myself a C-, largely because I moved more slowly than I should have. I should have been doing this 20 years ago, not starting 10 years ago. But you know, when you look at our portfolio company boards, we're almost to 50%, and we will be by June of this next year. And we, of course, have to do the same thing with people of color. But there are some remarkable organizations out there, some of whom we have supported and truthfully enhanced their scope, like Reboot, which is terrific. And so we do use outsiders as well as our own network.
Why has this been so hard? Is it the networks? Why is it that even today, as you and I sit here, talk about this topic, a lot of your peers will say, I cannot find people. I cannot find people of color. I can't find women. I can't find any form of diversity that will ensure I make the same rate of return.
Well, I gave myself the C- on timing, starting too late. I'm very happy with our rate of progress, and it is accelerating. And it's accelerating because we have people like Sandy Peterson, right, that joined us about 3 years ago. And Sandy's a remarkable background. She sits now on the Microsoft board, but she's been a leader in women in business for a long time. And
absolutely.
I explicitly told Sandy when she said, well, why should I come with you? And I said, this is going to be a good platform. And she said, well, I don't see enough women here. And I said, I know, that's why I want you. And I said, part of your job is within your first year, find someone and find another, you know, seriously successful woman like you. Right. And then the next year, there's 2 of you, find 2 more. Right. And so I've turned 1 into 4 in a 2-3 year period. And you know, I was chairman and CEO. She knew I meant it, and we're doing it, right?
Right.
I could have done that or should have done that earlier, and hence my self-criticism. But, for all of the interesting studies on cognitive bias, which is something that I've found interesting from even my undergraduate days,
Right.
people just don't see the world the same way. And unfortunately, in finance, investment banking, commercial banking has been so dominated by men, and typically white men, that just the framework is not as open as it should be. I think it's really changing, really changing. And some of it by brute force. You see the NASDAQ rules,
Yes.
the diversity requirements upon European boards. And I think that initially struck people as, gee, that's not going to work.
Right.
But guess what? It does.
Right.
And it has, and it will. And so I don't think that there was a strong sense of discrimination in many companies, although implicitly that was the result, as much as it was neglect, lack of intentionality, and importantly, not really believing that the outcome of a diverse company workforce and a diverse company board would really matter. But the research had shown it for a while. Now it shows it really in spades, which makes all the sense in the world. If we're serving a diverse population, how can we have a workforce or a board that's not diverse? How are we going to know what our customers want? We're going to define it with a stick? I mean, it's people. So once you take that frame, it matters. The other thing, and won't surprise you at all, and it's another reason why I'm self-critical, we didn't do in the past what I do now. I show every one of my portfolio companies where they stand on diversity versus other portfolio companies. So, there's an embarrassment factor.
I wanted to congratulate you on that, and I hope that we can have more conversations about this topic of diversity and how we can make it better in private equity, but also all the other things we talked about, and more on ESG in future. But especially wanted to thank you at this time of the year with an incredibly busy schedule to take time out of your busy day to share time with us. So thank you so much, Don, and look forward to future conversations.
Good. Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. As you can tell, these are all topics of great personal interest, and happy to have the opportunity to talk to you and Rock Creek, and happy to do it again. And I promise you, when I'm ready to give myself a B+ on ESG, I'll let you know.